Amateur radio is a popular hobby and service that brings people, electronics, and communication together. People use ham radio to talk across town, around the world, or even into space, all without the internet or cell phones. It's fun, social, educational, and can be a lifeline during times of need. Here are just a few examples of ways to use an amateur radio license. Many people start out in the hobby tuning into local repeaters. A repeater is a radio station usually elevated high on a mountain that retransmits weaker signals over a much larger area. A base station or handheld radio can communicate hundreds of miles using analog repeaters, and all around the world using those connected to the internet. Here I'm just listening in on a QSO or conversation between two operators via a repeater. Morse code, or properly CW, which stands for continuous wave, was one of the earliest modes of radio communication. Using less bandwidth, it's able to cut through noise and travel farther. Although no longer required for getting your license, it is still a useful skill for portable ops as it uses very little power and can be produced with the small QRP radios.
I was looking at the forecast.
A mobile dual-band transceiver, like the one I have installed in my car, is also useful for tuning into local repeaters or communicating with other vehicles or handheld radios via simplex, that is, radio to radio without the use of a repeater.
Airport, Woodhouse Field.
Most radios are capable of listening to aviation, marine, and weather station frequencies. Public services like dispatch, fire station, EMS, and police utilize radio for communications, and having a radio capable of listening to them allows you to stay connected to what's happening around you. This could prove useful in emergencies where live updates on changing weather conditions, hazards, etc. are necessary. Here's a call from dispatch to EMS for an accident that occurred up Spanish Fork Canyon.
They are advising 2 vehicles blocking traffic. Airbags did deploy. Advised 1 vehicle has 2 children inside that were in car seats. No obvious injuries.
A handheld radio is especially useful for hiking, backpacking, overlanding, or anything else that puts you out of cell phone service with the potential need to communicate your whereabouts with other people. Portable HF or high-frequency radios are designed for operation on bands that propagate farther than average handhelds. This SW3B runs on 5 watts, but operating on 40, 30, and 20 meter bands can reach several states away running on battery power. Many amateur radio operators participate in an activity called SOTA, or Summits on the Air, where people hike to mountaintops with portable stations and try to make as many contacts from their location. A more recent addition to the hobby is the use of digital modes, which use a computer that codes and decodes digital information and transmit it over the radio. This is an example of one mode called PSK, or phase shift keying. While digital modes can't propagate as far as Morse code, they still are superior to voice communications like those found on single sideband or FM. Another tangent of radio that I have yet to enjoy is communicating with astronauts on the International Space Station. The ISS has an amateur radio on board, as well as a new repeater, which can be used by anyone, anytime. In a similar vein, some operators communicate around the world by bouncing their signals off the moon and talking to whomever the signal lands. I hope you found this video helpful if you're interested in learning more about amateur radio. It's a great hobby as well as a very dependable means of emergency communication and should be seriously considered by anyone seeking to be self-sufficient and not reliant on outside infrastructure in the case of emergencies. If you're interested in obtaining your license and getting on the air, I'll leave a link for the AARL, the National Association for Amateur Radio's website, where you can find more information about online testing and resources.